Gen 5 Glock. Is it worth it? Let's find out on Sunday Gun Day. What is going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things. Majority of you are probably split right now. You're either really interested in knowing about the Gen 5 Glocks that just came out, or you're completely sick of hearing about them. I myself am kind of on the fence. Glock has recently announced the long-awaited Gen 5, and thanks to Panda Tactical, I got my hands on one today. Here we have a Gen 5 Glock 17. So I've had this gun for about 2 or 3 weeks now. It's really just been sitting in my safe. I wanted to bring it out here and shoot it on camera for the first time so you can get my genuine impression of the thing. I have some Gen 3s, some Gen 4s, and this is my first time putting my hands on a Gen 5. As always, I'm not here to bore you guys with specs. However, I am going to go over everything that they upgraded on this gun, supposedly making it better than the previous generations. First up, one of the main things that I noticed about this gun is the new DLC coating that they're putting on their slides. When I did the agency build of my Gen 419, I opted to go with the DLC coating. It's very similar to this Gen 5 coating, and I actually really like it. The Gen 5 now comes with an ambidextrous slide stop lever. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm a right-handed shooter, but I guess it could be good for people who are lefties. On the frame, they removed the finger grooves, supposedly making it more versatile. And at the bottom, they flared out the magazine well for speed reloading. At the front of the mag well, they cut out this little notch, which could be good for stripping mags out of the gun in a high-tense situation. The magazines went through a little bit of a change. They have enlarged foreplates and then an orange follower. The barrel has also been upgraded to what they call the Glock Marksman barrel. It features enhanced barrel rifling, which supposedly will make it shoot more accurately. Supposedly, the trigger has been improved. We'll get to that once I start shooting the thing. It has the same grip texture as the Gen 4, and it also has replaceable back straps. That's pretty much it for a quick overview on what they updated on this gun. Now let's go shoot it and see if it's actually worth buying. First mag, just some 115 grain FMJ. Alright, first mag impressions. I feel like I'm going to be saying this a lot in this video, but it's a Glock. It shoots pretty much the same as all the other generations, as expected. The only Gen 5 difference that I noticed when shooting is how they removed the finger grooves. The accuracy seemed pretty much the same. I feel like the only way you're really going to tell a difference is if you're a really good shooter. The trigger feels pretty much the same to me. These sights are actually pretty nice. These are Ameriglow sights. These are metal, so they're already better than the plastic sights that Glocks normally come with. Got a nice orange dot up front, and then both the front and rear are filled with tritium, so they're night sights as well. I know in the end I'm going to have a lot to say about this thing, so let me put about 100 rounds down, and then I'll come back and give you my final opinion. Alright, I got 100 rounds through this thing now, and my final thoughts, it's still a Glock. Most of you know that I am a big fan of Glock, and this thing doesn't disappoint in any way, shape, or form. Glocks inspire confidence, and I'm pretty confident that whenever I pull the trigger on this thing, it's gonna go bang. I would obviously have to test this thing pretty extensively if I'm gonna figure out if it's as reliable as all of the other generations, but nothing is really saying that it isn't going to be. Starting with the Ameriglow night sights, I like them. I put night sights on all of my guns, so that's definitely a big plus. They're metal, tritium filled, they're good sights. The slide and barrel coating, like I said originally, I do like. It might be a little bit fingerprinty, but that doesn't really bother me. The ambi slide catch lever, again, not really a big fan of that. It's just something extra that I'm never going to use. I can obviously see it being useful for left-handed shooters, but I am not. The trigger, I really didn't notice any difference. Here, you guys can check it out for yourself. Trigger safety as always, the take-up, and the brake. The reset, tactile and audible as always, and then the brake again. Now, I mentioned in the past that I am a fan of the Glock triggers. Granted, they're not the best triggers in the world, but they do what they're supposed to do. They're safe, they have an audible and tactile reset, which I like on all of my triggers. You can obviously upgrade them and make them better, maybe polish the internals a little bit, put a 3.5 pound ghost connector in there. But how it comes out of the box, really no complaints from me. The take-up on the Gen 5 does seem a little bit mushy to me. I'm not really sure how to describe it. I would be curious to see though how this thing shoots with the polished internals and the upgrades that I mentioned. The finger grooves on the Gen 4 actually do fit my hand really well, but I removed them on my 19 because of the undercut trigger guard. When you undercut the trigger guard, you're obviously getting a higher purchase on the gun, so then my fingers actually fell right on the humps in the finger grooves. Wasn't a huge fan of that, so that's why I removed them. Removing them on the Gen 5 was a good move in my opinion, so pretty much anyone who picks this gun up, it's gonna fit their hand. The flared magazine well, looks cool I guess. Again, I don't really have a heavy opinion on that, and the notch in the front, I also don't really have a good opinion on that either. So overall, the Gen 5 does seem like a pretty good package, but this is where the tables turn a little bit. I have a couple issues with this new redesign that I really haven't heard anyone talk about yet. This may seem like I'm really nitpicking this thing, but at the same time, it's kind of interesting. First thing, they sort of rounded off the front of the slide here, but they didn't match it to the frame. It's kind of hard to tell because this is such a small thing like I mentioned, but as you can see here, the frame kind of hangs out past the slide. You would think that if they're going to round off the front of the slide, they would do the same thing so that the frame matches too, but maybe that's just me. The next thing is sort of internal and external. As you can see with the ambi slide catch here, it's running off of a spring down on the inside there, and then it runs up along the trigger bar. This is obviously not how the other generations are, so they had to remove material from the inside of the frame. My main concern with that is that when you shoot this gun a lot, everything in here is obviously going to get dirty, and with those two pieces rubbing up against each other, I think that's going to have an effect on how the trigger feels in the long run. Now when it comes to the outside, this is going to be another thing that's kind of hard to show you guys on camera, but I'll do my best. Check out this right side catch right here. When you squeeze the trigger, it kind of moves in and out a little bit. Like I said, it's kind of hard to see on camera, but when you're holding it in real life, it's super noticeable. Another thing, if you look really closely, you can see the frame actually bulging out as you pull the trigger. Again, you can't really see it on camera, but it's really noticeable in real life. If you actually put your finger on here while you're pulling the trigger, you can feel the frame pushing out. This is obviously due to the redesign and all the small components that they had to squeeze in here, but I don't really like that. Is it going to cause any malfunctions or failures? No, probably not. But to me, things like that and the rounded out front slide without matching the frame, it kind of just seems like an afterthought. It seems like Glock was just pressured to put out a new generation, but they're already trying to improve on something that worked well in the first place. It seems like they were in a rush and they were just like, alright, let's throw some new things on there and call them features. One thing that I do actually like is the orange follower. It's a nice indication, a flag for when the gun is empty. You can tell that it's empty. That is a nice new feature, and I hope they keep doing that on future generations. The new floor plates on the mags, I don't really care. I guess with this notch cutout, it definitely does make it easier to strip from the gun. However, I think that's also a point where you could pinch your hand when doing fast reloads and stuff like that. I guess with that notch, you could pull the mag out with your belt, just like that, but I would probably never use that. So that's pretty much it. I did have to go out on a limb there to find some things to bitch about the new generation, but in the end, it's still a Glock. It's a good, reliable package. Should they have labeled it a Gen 5? I'm thinking like a Gen 4S type of thing, but to each his own. Huge thanks to Panda Tactical for getting this gun to me. Of course, if you guys want to check out their website, I will leave it down in the description below. In the past, a bunch of you guys were looking for shirts. They now open a big cartel store, so I will also leave that down in the description. You can pick up a shirt. They got a bunch of different styles, both men's and women's. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like. Let me know any questions you might have down in the comments below. If you're new to this channel, consider clicking subscribe. I make new videos every week, and that's going to be it for today. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you in the next one.